Hi, I'm Jack Roberts, Executive Editor with Overdrive and CCJ, and I'm here with Volvo Trucks in Sacramento, California for the dimethyl ether fuel launch. And I'm with Ed Saxman, who's Marketing Manager for Alternative Fuels for Volvo. And Ed, I can already hear my readers are saying, I'm trying to figure natural gas out, and here comes Volvo with an all-new fuel. But you guys really feel like you have a winner here. Can you tell my readers why?
Sure can. The interesting thing about DME is that it is a manufactured fuel. It's not one that's found anywhere in nature, but it's a simple structure molecules that you primarily make from methane. And the methane then can come from a number of different sources. It can come straight from pipeline natural gas, or it can come from a lot of biogas facilities, in which case it would be nearly CO2 neutral. For example, cow manure, any kind of sawgrass and things like that. There's just a number of things from biomass that can be converted into the methanol that we turn into DME. And so that's the process. You make methanol from either natural gas or one of these other bio feedstocks, and then turn that into DME. And as a manufactured fuel, it's consistent, it's clean, it's always got exactly the same properties. And so what are they? It's a diesel type fuel, meaning it lends itself to compression ignition rather than spark ignition. And by that you can use a higher compression ratio, and that means you have a higher expansion ratio. And that means that you get more energy out of the fuel, so it's going to be more efficient in those terms. And we get more of the energy turning the wheels around and hauling freight. There's less heat rejection then into the coolant system. There's a lower exhaust temperature, and all those factors mean that we know that if we design for diesel compression, peak combustion temperature, combustion pressures, and those characteristics, that will generate an engine that will live with diesel durability and diesel reliability. We'll get diesel engine brake performance out of it. We'll get diesel horsepower and torque. This is a 425, 1750, and we expect to go higher than that, by full production. And so with all those diesel qualities, it's a pretty neat fuel, and all starting with that methane molecule in one fashion or another.
Now, one thing I know you talked about yesterday is this also a fuel that's not dependent on large refineries or foreign powers. You can produce this fuel pretty much anywhere where you have what you guys are calling biomass. Is that right?
That is, and that's the key to creating an infrastructure. People are going to say, where are you going to get it? Well, yes, it is very difficult to find the financing for somebody to create a total plant with a large-scale output that could ultimately fuel many thousands of numbers of trucks. That takes a lot of money, and of course there's no fuel at first until the trucks are put on the road. With the fueling infrastructure for this product, we have a business partner that can create DME at small quantities. It takes about 100 by 100 foot piece of property on your facility, on a neighboring facility, that can create DME in small scale, enough for typically 50 to 100 trucks per mini plant. And those mini plants can be then located near feedstocks that will vary regionally. If you're in an agriculture area, it might be products from having all these animals that, all those things. Or it might be different sawgrass, or it might be stranded gas from the gas fields. That gas would otherwise be flared or wasted. We see properties that the potential to take that gas and turn it into DME fuel, and then it can be trucked away when it's inefficient to build a pipeline that fuel recovery. So there's a lot of abilities there with these plants to ramp the plant capacity up as the truck capacity goes up, and that solves that problem.
Now, you guys have also touted over this event since yesterday, it's a much easier fuel to handle than, say, LNG or CNG. It's not a cryo fuel, it's not very cold, it operates at lower pressure, and we're sort of standing by the fuel tank on this Volvo tractor. Can you talk a little bit about the simplification of the fuel tanking system and the fuel itself?
Yeah. Compared to other fuels, DME is most like propane, although that's a spark ignition fuel, and DME is a compression ignition fuel. But it works in a tank that's very similar to a propane tank. So when it's filled, it's at ambient temperature, just like this. It's not a cryogenic, which we all know that LNG is handled at 260 below zero Fahrenheit in order to keep it in the liquid state. CNG, compressed natural gas, is a way to use methane where you keep it in the gaseous state, but you pack as much of it into a tank as you can, and that creates an extremely high pressure of 3,600 psi. And that takes a lot of energy to push the fuel into the tank. And the tank is really heavy because it's really thick. It has a lot of carbon graphite.
Insulated and all that stuff.
It's got a lot of filament and everything. It's the LNG tank that's
thermally insulated.
Thermally insulated because you've got the double wall type tank. This tank's not insulated. It's just a simple steel tank. The pressure in here right now is 75 psi at this temperature. And so it's a very low pressure tank, so it's nowhere near as heavy or as expensive as the other tanks to make. The interesting thing about it is that when you fill it, you always get a very consistent fill. It doesn't vary depending on the pressure that's already in the tank or whether or not somebody just used the lane that you were in and drew down the pressure in the facility you're pumping from. This pump's pretty much like diesel fuel with a very low horsepower because you're really just transferring the fluid into the tank. You're not compressing it or anything like that. So it's got a lot of filling advantages and it's safe to handle. In other words, if there somehow could happen to be a spill, it's non-toxic, clean to the environment, whether it's the ground or the air or the water. It's got a lot of advantages that way. It's just a fuel that's very difficult to throw stones at.
Yeah, and I find it interesting that you guys have chosen, Volvo has chosen to launch this fuel in North America because you feel North American trucking industry is leading the world in alternative fuel technology and acceptance, which struck me as surprising. One would think that Europe would be where you guys would want to launch this fuel.
Well, you know, people have been trying to do alternative fuels for many years, and it's never caught on. And you have to reach a critical mass for that to happen. And there's a number of factors that's making that happen in this country right now. We are developing a green mentality as long as that took to start. We see a lot of customers that want to be green to their customers.
And their customers want to be green.
Yes.
It's important to their customers.
Or they want to have green trucks just because their customer is telling you, hey, I want you to have one of these new fuel trucks because that's our brand image and you're hauling my freight and things like that. There's customers that want to use landfill gas. There's customers that have other access to gas that makes them want to burn that natural gas just because it helps their overall business platform and things. So this appeals to all of them, plus we have the special thing with the environment that this is a very easy fuel